This is Don't Panic, episode number 13, recorded September 10th, 2013, on gold fingerprints, brightly colored plastics, and all the new iPhone goodness. Hello and welcome. That's right, it is Tuesday evening, and that means you are graciously spending your time here with us. It is another episode of Don't Panic, but I don't want you to get too comfortable because this week we are introducing a new video intro for the show. Dan, are you excited?
I am so excited.
Don't be, please. But, alright, I'm going to try to do this. I have to, do 14 different things here at once, so...
Okay.
Don't question it.
Don't mind the man behind.
That would have been much better had you heard the music, which is what I'm having the problem with. There's a nice little rock ballad that goes with it.
Ah, rock ballads.
I don't know what that was weird. What happened?
It's alright. I wish I had known that I would have talked over it. I would have pulled a Colby.
Is the TV volume?
If only we had any idea what we were doing.
No, I've been researching all day, and turns out it's not actually that easy to just output your general computer audio to...
Yeah. You need, a special sound card that supports a certain thing, right?
Yeah, it's complicated. So, okay, but visually...
Visually, it's pretty impressive.
Yeah, you like that? I spent a lot of time doing that.
Yeah, you hand animated each gear, I'm guessing, right? Spent some time in Blender or something,
Oh, absolutely, frame by frame.
That out. Yeah.
I actually built all those gears. That's live footage.
The Rube Goldberg machine in your apartment.
No,
as if that's not what you already have going with all this crap, but.
I do have too much crap. No, actually, props to you heard the website Fiverr.com?
Yeah.
The website where you give someone $5 to do something?
Uh-huh.
That cost me $5.
Wow.
But worth every penny. And we also have a house ad.
House ad.
Well.
We should save that.
Till the middle of the show when we're going to advertise. Be our own sponsor. And if you want to sponsor Don't Panic, please give us your money. But now that we've done the silly ridiculousness, let's get into the show.
We'll
Dan,
play you a $5 house ad.
Hey, for $5, you can sponsor this show. I'll promote your product. I don't care. Don't faze me. I'm Shaun Jennings. He's Dan Miller. We are Colby-less this week. He's too busy partying it up in Seattle to be here with us on the biggest tech news day of the year. Some nerve of that guy. The Apple enthusiast of the group.
Tisk, tisk.
Some nerve. But you know what? We're going to have opinions regardless of if he's here. And the reason we're going to have regardless...
Maybe even more so.
Yeah, we don't have to put up with his shenanigans, right?
Mm-hmm.
Today was the big yearly culmination. It's like a national holiday for nerds. Everyone stops what they're doing, drops everything, and it's so sad, but it's for nerds.
It's funny because on visually it looks like nothing has changed because we're all still sitting at our desks looking at our computer screens, but there's no actual work being done. So
every year you see the where they say the Monday after Black Friday, productivity goes down because everyone's shopping. I feel like that's what happened today with the Apple event. Nothing, productivity stopped, the Dow must have dropped, who knows. But that's because Apple, September 10th, their big event, iPhones are here, people, and we are going to give you the full rundown and all of our opinions, and Lord knows we have a lot. Dan and I were chatting back and forth during the announcement. We both watched live, which is always a lot of fun. To make snap decisions, and of course we're only a couple hours after the announcement, so really all of our decisions are snap decisions, but those sometimes are the most fun, and I'm excited. So Dan, you want to just start off the top here?
Yeah, we could go chronologically. So what they start with, stores.
Stores.
Was that what they started with? They started with something more...
iTunes Festival.
iTunes Festival, that's right.
Yep, it was iTunes Festival.
What is that? Because I still don't know. I wasn't actually paying attention.
iTunes Festival is actually really interesting. What iTunes Festival is it is essentially a streamed music festival. They get a large number of big artists, your Katy Perrys and your Lady Gagas and your so-ons and so forths.
As you would.
And I can't see this monitor behind me, so I can put this image up. And what they do is it's essentially a week, 2 weeks. It's expanded over the years. It's got to be in like its 5th or 6th year. And it's just a streamed music festival that they do, and it's live concerts they stream over the network. Now, obviously, it's free, and they don't make any money. If anything, they spend money on it. But the general sort of consensus is that they put the festival on for 2 reasons. One, so over time they could build up their ability to live stream things and to become experts in that and to build it into all the different programs, Apple TV, iTunes. And the other was to test data farms. Like when they launched that big one a year or 2 ago in North Carolina or something.
Somewhere over there, yeah.
This was one of the ways they tested and got it up and running, was putting out this event, because it is really heavily streamed.
Okay. That's cool.
Yeah, so, and it's just something fun that they do. And of course, obviously they sell music from it. So,
Yes.
It also works on that front as well. So they talked about that. That's going to be streamed to over 100 countries live this year. 30 nights of live music in London. Lady Gaga, Robin Thicke, Justin Timberlake, all the usual twerking hot stars from...
Just so you know...
No, go ahead.
Twerking actually means either working at Twitter or tweeting while working. I haven't been able to decide which.
I like that much better than the common vernacular use. Personally, but what do I know?
Yeah. Okay, so then stores.
Stores, they still have them.
They make a shitload of money all the time, more than anyone. Cool.
Yep.
That's great.
And I can tell you, as a matter of fact, they spent literally 2 minutes talking about stores. This is what's great about a live blogged event. And then they moved right on to iOS 7. iOS 7 is mostly the same as it was announced in June. Obviously, things have been tweaked over time, but they didn't announce any sort of major new software features that weren't directly associated with hardware. Am I right in saying that? Unless there's anything, I don't believe I missed anything.
Well,
there are new ringtones.
Oh yeah, I missed that. Is it that there are new ringtones, or that they changed the existing?
I think they just updated the existing.
So the old ones aren't there anymore.
Right. They've changed.
Okay.
Yeah, and I guess they're better or something. I don't know.
Cool.
My phone's on vibrate all the time.
Me too. It feels like we're the only ones.
Well, because I'm always doing stuff.
At least in college it was like that. In the real world, in the professional world, people are a little bit more discerning.
Yeah,
but I never understood that. Like, oh, I'm just hanging out at my house. I'll put my phone on maximum volume, so every time I get a text message, everyone else knows I got a text message.
And the funny thing is, there's no such thing as a good ringtone.
No.
The default ones suck. The built-in ones suck. If you put your favorite song, it probably is going to annoy everyone else. There's no such thing as a
clever ones, but they get annoying too.
Yeah. I had a friend once who had a friend of his stole his phone one day and just recorded him shouting, "Your phone's ringing! Your phone's ringing!" And he kept it as his ringtone for like 2 years. Hated that guy. So yeah, it's new ringtones. Outside of that, it's pretty much all the same. One thing that was sort of new was that iTunes Radio will launch the same day as iOS 7. That will go out live, and all of that happens in 1 week on September 18th.
Yeah, they changed a couple things about iOS 7, though, visually.
Visually, yeah. Some font tweaks, some...
the icons on the top bar thing are bigger.
Right.
The hat, the ceiling.
Right. But then again, the only people who are going to notice that are the developers who've been using it. Your average user is going to be so overwhelmed by all the other iOS 7 changes, I don't think, a font tweak's
People were making a big deal about the font is thicker than it was when it was introduced in June. Which
I think is good, because I thought the old font was a little much.
Yeah, I agree with that.
iOS 7 will be coming to iPhone 4 and later, iPad 2 and later, iPad minis, and iPod Touches the 5th generation.
5th generation.
5th generation. I have no idea which.
I
I'm guessing that's the most current.
Huh.
That was really it for iOS.
Yeah.
Now, iWork is still a thing. People use it.
I use it.
Well,
No.
Well, I hope you did. You pay for?
I paid for it on OS 10. I didn't pay for it on iOS.
Well, you are in luck, Dan, because on your next brand new shiny Apple product that isn't Mac, you are going to get the entire iWork suite, Pages, Numbers, and Keynote. Can't believe I remember those. As well as iPhoto and iMovie, absolutely, unequivocally free.
I didn't know about the iPhone and iMovie.
Yes, those are also
That's
included.
way more awesome.
The only one you really don't get for free, I would say, in this area would be GarageBand. Obviously, the pro stuff you're not going to get for free.
What does iPhoto do on iOS?
It does on iPad. It really doesn't do much on the iPhone, but on the iPad, it's good if you import a lot of photos, and it just adds more editing capabilities, things like that.
Okay.
So, and those were what, $9.99 each for the iWork apps?
More than I was willing to pay.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I can't imagine myself using iWork like Pages and Numbers and Keynote. Keynote's awesome. Pages is okay. I've never used Numbers. Keynote is unfairly good. I wish there was something better. Or I wish that there was an open sourcey sort of web thing that was half as good. But it's really great. But I can't imagine using that. I could have... I don't know.
Well, and I will say...
Maybe on the iPad. I guess it makes more sense when you start thinking about this as an iPad.
Well, especially because Word and Excel and PowerPoint are not available for iPad. You don't have there really isn't an alternative. There's third-party alternatives. And what's really interesting to me is I think, at least over the last couple of years, the iWork suite has really fallen to the wayside a little bit. Sort of got put on the back burner, but we saw back in June they announced the web versions of this software. Now they're free on mobile. I think it's a really compelling strategy to go against this new Office 365 initiative.
Yeah. So if I went out and bought an iPad in a couple weeks, it would come with iOS 7, presumably. Maybe not. Maybe I think it would. Anyways, but then I would get all of this stuff, but then I would also get it on my other iPad and my phone.
I actually don't know. That's a really good question, because I know once you have an app, it's across all your devices. My guess would be no, and that there is some way for them to distinguish. Well, it's a value add for new products, you know. And that I would be very surprised if that were the case, because they specifically said that they're free with any new iOS device. Although, no, maybe you do. I actually don't know. That's a good question. I could see that going either way.
All right. Glad I came up with at least one good question.
Yeah, you did. I'll get Tim Cook on the line when we're done, and we'll talk to him.
Yeah, give him a call. I haven't heard from Tim in a while. How's he doing?
Oh, he's doing great. He wanted to be on the show tonight, but he was busy doing press. He couldn't make it.
Yeah, a little tired probably, too.
And that was it for iWork. It still exists. But then, of course, and I have to say, today's event was, like, snappy. I mean, they were flying through stuff like nobody's business.
And did we skip over, or are we about to get to Infinity Blade 3?
We're getting there, because we're just about to talk iPhone. Obviously, they do the
okay.
Yep, they do the nice big shiny sales chart that shows, way more growth because they messed with the scale, and that's fine. They're allowed to do that. So, and as they said, this year we're going to replace the iPhone 5 not with one, but with two new designs. And the first was the iPhone 5C.
Yes.
I have some images.
I have an iPhone 5C right here, says Shaun Jennings. I have one right here.
So many cameras. So there we go, the iPhone 5C. It's colorful. Obviously, the big highlights of this phone come down to there's a good example of the color. It comes in 5 colors. I've just got green, white, blue, pink, and yellow. It is. I'll just run through very quickly here. The casing is made from a solid piece of plastic that is reinforced with metal. People who held it at the event said it felt much more firm than like a Samsung plastic-backed phone because of the metal frame inside. It's a hard-coated polycarbonate back, which is steel reinforced. Outside of that, it is generally an iPhone 5 they put into a plastic case. It has the same 4-inch Retina display. That's not the 5, right? The 5 is bigger, so this is the 4S size screen. No, this is the 5 screen.
Yeah.
I get confused with all these inches number. It's touch, it's widescreen, it's got the same A6 chip that the 5 currently has, the same camera. One of the big differences is a new FaceTime camera. This camera is HD, although they tend to stretch a little bit the definition of that. But it has larger pixels with the backside illumination built into the camera.
It's apparently a huge deal, but I don't know enough about cameras to say why.
Well, you mean the tech? Oh, I thought you were talking about the sales reason why they would do this. No, the technological reason. No. Because some people were talking about why it's weird that of all the things they changed, why the front camera, and not other things. But as we'll talk about when we get down to price, I think it plays into the kids market and the emerging markets. Is that video calling for them is growing faster than people expected.
Okay. Talk about that.
It has more LTE bands than any other smartphone in the world. So that's neat. Comes in colors, as we said. On a 2-year contract, it is $99 for the 16 gigabyte, or a $100 discount over the higher-end phone. $199 for 32 gigabytes, and they are off contract $549. They also introduced. I'm going to see if one of these photos has the silly-looking, ridiculous case thing. There we go. Also introduced a number of cases. They're silicone cases that are specially designed. They come in a series of colors. They're $29 each. And they have like these little cheese grater hole things in them to let you see the color of your phone under the color of your case so you can mix and match. 5 colored cases, 5 colored phones. That's a lot of combinations. I'm not going to.
While we're on that topic.
Please, yes.
Can you see what's happening here? So I configured, you can go to apple.com/iPhone-5C and like mix and match your phone color and case to your heart's desire. But what blows my mind, and someone I follow on Twitter pointed this out, is the cheese grater holes in the back obscure the iPhone and just make it say non. Like, they didn't think about that. They didn't take the iPhone off. They didn't maybe make the cheese graters go down halfway.
I completely agree.
Don't have cheese graters at all. I like the cheese grater idea because it does give it a cool effect, even though it can be sometimes nauseating, like with that color scheme.
Well, and that's... Go ahead.
But, the point this guy was trying to make was that this was his first definite sign of Steve would never let that happen, where you put the Apple phone on the back and it would say non instead of iPhone. Like, it does look pretty tacky.
That is
and they didn't even get around that on the website. They just freely admit to it. That's what the iPhone thing's going to look like back there. And it's not a huge deal because no one's, no one's gonna see it, but it is a huge deal because you're gonna see it. I won't be able to stop noticing it.
It's the little details that matter, quite honestly, especially for Apple products.
Yeah.
More so than any other. No, it's a good point. I wouldn't have even noticed that. So obviously, the big highlights of this phone, as we talked about, are colors and cost, essentially. I wanted to talk because when you and I were chatting during the live announcement, we had a bit of a disagreement about the colors.
Yeah.
But I want to say, before
as evidenced by my shirt, I like colors.
Hey, I like colors too, but I have two sets of opinions, okay? I have what I like, and I have what's good for business, all right? And when it comes to these Apple colors, I think they're horrific, and I think they're going to be great for Apple's business.
Okay.
Because, A, they've shown this in the past. I mean, this isn't the first time they've done crazy colors.
Yeah.
Maybe the mixing and matching is new, and we'll see how that plays out, but certainly the shade of coloring isn't anything surprising, and it certainly matches up with iOS 7. 2, we have to talk about who this phone is targeted for. And there are a couple suggestions. The first would be a younger market. Kids, tweens, something that their parents don't want to get them a glass-encased $200 phone and instead want to give them a plastic, toss-around $99 phone. For them...
Not $99.
On contract, it's $99.
Oh, it is?
Yeah. Yeah, it's $199 for the 5S.
16 gigabytes?
That's right. $549 off contract, which is important to remember. We'll talk about that in a second. But for that market, I think the colors make a lot of sense. The other main target, and they talked about this a lot throughout the announcement, was international. International is huge. They're launching in China for the first time. They gained a huge carrier in Japan, more LTE bands than any other phone. International is a huge opportunity for them, and phones like the Lumia, the Nokia Lumia series, they found, which is exploding in these emerging markets, the colors are way outselling the traditional colored phones. So it's something clearly the market has shown these countries want. So even if it's not that big of a deal here in the U.S., research has shown it's going to play in these markets. That's why I think it's a smart business decision. Based on my own personal taste, I think the colors are outrageous, and I prefer something to the Moto X, which has many shades, including much more subtle, classy shades. But that's, you know, I'm not the king of taste, so what do I know?
Right. I think they're quite edgy. Is it? You know, because this is just my perception of design, but there's like what everyone's doing, and that, you know, you see, like Facebook is a good example. Facebook looks good, no denying that, but it's not like Google's designs where you go there and you're like, whoa, like there's this pastel-y, colorful rainbow thing with doodles and all this stuff. It's just like, it looks good and it works and it's professional, more or less. But if you want to make a real statement, I think this is good marketing, because you're going to see one of these in someone's hand and you're going to know it's an iPhone 5C.
They're going to make those great, colorful people jumping around with the bright phones commercials. And
yeah, exactly.
No, I agree. I think it's a great differentiator, as opposed to your HTCs and Samsungs, which are, you know, the Samsung Notes with their fake leather back and all this stuff. I certainly think it'll play well in the markets. The other really important thing to note is the cost, because this was initially billed as a low-cost iPhone, but upon thinking about it, it's really not a low-cost iPhone.
It doesn't take much thinking.
No, I mean, $99 on a 2-year contract in the U.S., some would consider to be cheap. That 100 or less is usually a low-cost, quote-unquote, phone. And that's fine. But the idea of making a cheap phone was not to sell it in the U.S., but was to sell it abroad. And at $549 off contract, which is how most people in these countries buy phones, that is way above what other companies are charging. There are Android phones for $299. Hell, there is a Nokia Lumia phone that has gotten outstanding reviews as a great basic smartphone that costs $99 off contract. You can just go and buy it. It costs less than an iPod Touch and does all the same stuff. I mean, for them to think that, and maybe we're reading too much into it, and maybe this isn't their plan, but at $549 off contract, there's nothing, you know, it's cheaper. It's not cheap.
Yeah, no, it's not. It's not cheap. I agree. And are they really hurting internationally?
Yes.
Okay.
They're not growing, not even close to what Android and even Windows Phone are doing.
Okay.
I mean, there are some countries where they're third behind Windows Phone and Android.
Interesting.
So, I mean, they're really, especially I know South America has been really big for Windows Phone. I know they're really taking a beating. So they certainly had to compete, and it appeared this would be their attempt to do it, but they may have just overshot it.
I don't know. I have a hard time believing that they would be set out to make a cheap phone and then be like, oh, holy crap. We went twice over, but twice as expensive as we meant to. Like, Tim Cook, the numbers man, would not make that mistake of all the mistakes he would make.
And Apple will never make a cheap phone because they're not a cheap company. They make lower cost computers, but they don't make low cost computers.
Yeah, it's not in their interest to present their brand that way.
Right. They have a range of products. I just think that it's sort of like when they priced the iPad mini at $329, people said, why $329? You have the Nexus 7 at $199 or $250. I mean, why not cut $50 off? You're not really losing that much in terms of margins and just destroy the market. And it's because Apple doesn't have to. And because it's not really in their best long-term interest to reduce the value of their products, even if it means losing some sales abroad.
Yep.
Any other thoughts on the 5C?
I don't think so. I think that's about it. I like that it. I would like to hold one. It could very well be my next phone. Because, like, I'm not totally sold on the aluminum-ness of the 5S stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And it'd probably be pretty durable. Wouldn't need a case, so it'd probably be pretty thin without a case on it. So I'm interested.
And I'd be curious. I can't wait for one of the blogs to get both the S and the C in a chamber and test reception because, if you remember...
battery life. Do they have any claims about battery life differences between the two of those?
No, because they didn't really make any specific claims regarding the 5C.
Okay.
Obviously they talked about the 5S's battery life, but they really made no specific claims. It might be on the website, but at least in the announcement, they didn't say. But I'd be really interesting to see how these phones stack up on things like reception, if that plastic back helps or hurts, versus the all-metal. All right, rolling on, the iPhone 5S.
It looks like they have identical battery claims on the Apple website.
Which wouldn't surprise me. I mean, they're the same size, so they probably hold the same battery. But it'll be interesting to see.
Yeah.
5S is here, and it comes in lots of pretty shiny colors. Here we go. We have it in 3 colors now. We have it in, over here is silver, gold, and space gray.
So they didn't call the middle one champagne in the end?
No.
They called it gold?
They honestly, they went with, those are the new cases. There we go. There we have the gold. They specifically said gold. What's interesting to note is the gold color and the silver color both have the white edging and front with the gold band all the way around on the gold. And there they are. Here we go. And here's the silver, and you see it with the white as well. It's silver all around. And there's a picture of the front of the phone as well. So like we said, 3 new colors. If we do it in the order they announced it, the first thing we talked about is the new chip A7. This is a 64-bit chip.
Whoopty crap.
For the first time ever on a phone.
I want someone to make an 8-bit phone. That's what I'm waiting for.
Kickstarter.
Yeah.
People put money down on that.
Yeah, it'll come out of like East Bushwick. It'll be like the Brooklyn phone company.
Going retro.
Runs MS-DOS.
They say it's a 64-bit desktop architecture. with 2 times the floating point registers, Dan.
Yay!
I don't know what that means, but it must be good because there's twice as many.
It means you can do more complicated math at the same time-ish.
Hey, as long as my calculator still works, that's all I need.
Yes.
So the advantage to this is we don't know, but it is all the built-in apps are re-engineered, and they say it's going to be a seamless transition. That is to be seen. And iOS 7 does run both 32-bit and 64-bit apps. Dan, we talked about this while we were chatting during the announcement. Do we know what the actual advantage is to having a 64-bit chip in a phone?
No.
Because I've heard suggestions of the fact that 32-bit cuts out at 4 gigabytes of memory.
That's true.
But no phone is even near that.
Also true.
So
I guess it's better than not doing it.
Right.
Might as well.
Or, and this is just me just totally speculating out of my damn mind, but what if, in the future, we're 2 years from this, merging the Mac App Store and the iOS Store?
Oh, that's definitely happening.
You write one app, and both will run on 64-bit.
No, I don't necessarily think that both are going to be the same thing, but I think that OS 10, there will not be an OS 11.
No, I agree with that, but I'm saying this, I think, is a first step towards, because obviously
in the next couple of years, your MacBook Air will run iOS.
Right. But over the transition, I think we're going to start seeing more things like that. And that's just totally a guess. Obviously, they didn't say anything like that.
I mean, we've been seeing that. Just like, I mean, who needs computers anymore? We've talked about this.
Yeah, the transition away from the traditional desktop.
Right. So OS 10 is, I get the feeling it's very much a legacy support. Although I am very grateful for Maverick's multiple full screen app support. Thank you.
I agree.
You'll prevent me from moving off for at least another year.
Well, and aside from the fact 64-bit sounds really good on a poster or ad, they're claiming this new processor, whether it's the 64-bit or whether it's just the processor, is 40 times faster in the CPU and 56 times faster in the graphics. Supporting OpenGL 3.0, which I guess is good, and that's the newest thing.
It's one more 1.0 than OpenGL 2.0.
We're getting there, Dan. We're getting there. And that leads right into, I guess, what you're excited for, which would be the fine folks with their Infinity Blade.
Yeah, I was sarcastically excited. I found out with other people who were watching this that the last time the people behind Infinity Blade were at the conference, or not the conference, the press conference for the last iPhone, or
it was the iPad announcement.
Oh yeah, the game they announced never even came out.
Yeah, they canceled the project, and that's why I thought it was interesting when they announced this. They specifically said it is coming out the day of I don't know if it was the iOS or the phone launch, but it's available on day one. So I don't. That's a hard deadline.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of these Infinity Blade games. I bought one, and it was kind of boring.
Oh, that's not what you want in a game.
No. In fact, I saw a funny image, or the caption was, "Revolutionary gameplay," and it was that screen cap of the, just like some creature in the air, and it said "tap" underneath, and it was just like, yeah, it's not the revolutionary gameplay where you're just swiping on your screen to quickly just slash away at something. I don't know. Yeah. Anyways, cool. Good for them.
That's right. Another one of those fantastic developers trotted up on stage to say how great the new phone is.
Yeah, and that's always so awkward when they do that because they're never as good as the Apple people are at public speaking. So
although I will say, the game guys aren't as bad. I feel bad when they trot up like the AT&T CEO. Like those guys.
They do that?
They've done those before. Where like usually the game or the app developers aren't too bad, but it's sort of like the utility guys Or they'll be like, and now the CEO of Japan Mobile, and it's so awkward. I love when they do that.
Yeah.
But anyway, I guess the game looks good. Whoop-de-doo. So you can buy that on the day of the 5S launch.
Woo!
Moving on. I'm thinking we should do an ad.
I was just going to say that.
Wow. Great minds, man. We are thinking alike. I'm going to try really hard to make this work.
Okay.
And it won't, but
okay.
God damn it, I am going to try. Because the video will work. It's the audio. I don't know if I can actually...
If the audio doesn't work, I'll make up my own.
Well, visually, it's pretty awesome. So, all right, here we go. Let's give this a shot here. Oh. Hang on, I have to... I know this is really exciting for all the...
Yeah.
The listeners and the viewers.
The tension is palpable. Oh, we don't have any video.
This is Don't Panic, the ultimate technology podcast on gadgets, the internet, and you. Every week live at don'tpanic.io. Tune in, listen up. There you go, Houston. We have it here. I'll play it again because we missed. This is Don't Panic, the ultimate technology podcast on gadgets, the internet, and you. Every week live at don'tpanic.io. Tune in, listen up.
Whose hand is that?
I have absolutely no idea. I paid $5 for that.
Oh, another $5?
That was another $5 to find folks over at Fiverr. And I have one more order coming in, and it's equally as awesome. So, so props. I wish I had. Next week maybe my pick will be Fiverr, and I'll give these people the props they deserve. But you can have your company logo on anything, so that's our ad. So you should watch the show you're currently watching. Tell your friends. Facebook.com/
Keep watching the show that you're now watching. Watch it more. Watch it more intently.
Watch it a couple times. You might have missed something. Okay, well, now that we're done with our ad, and by the way, if you would like us to advertise your company, product, project, Kickstarter, you name it, we'll do it for almost no cash. Very low dollar amounts. Just let us know. Find us on Facebook. Private message us, facebook.com/Don'tPanicShow. Moving back to the Apple announcement. If we haven't already put you to sleep, that's okay, because we have more processors. Probably, there were almost, let's be honest, almost no surprises in this announcement. Maybe one or two things. The three iWork apps were a surprise. And the M7 motion coprocessor chip was a surprise. And it kind of got buried a little bit under some of the more flashy things. But what it is it's a secondary chip. And what it continuously measures motion data. The accelerometer, the gyroscope, the compass. And it's constantly running in the background even when your phone is turned off, sleeping. Sort of in the same way the Moto X is always listening to your voice. What this does is it always listens to the sensors. And through their Core Motion API, it identifies your user movements and can optimize based on contextual awareness. If you're walking, if you're driving, if you're sleeping. And developers will be able to access it. And I think this is really exciting. I don't know. What do you think, Dan?
It's great. I want it to know when I'm in the car, like the Moto X does. And it sounds like people can write apps against this.
Yep,
it's an API.
It is an API. They already announced that Nike, who is already doing it, which isn't Tim Cook on the board of Nike?
I
think so.
Heard that.
So there's Nike Plus Move, which is going to use the A7 chip, M7 chip, and the GPS all to do an even better job than phones can do today of tracking your movement. So
I want it. This is the only thing about the 5S that had me excited.
Really?
Yeah, it's...
Gold not doing it?
No. They've had gold-plated iPhones.
That's true.
Could pay a lot of money to acquire, and I can tell you who what sort of clientele acquired those phones.
Russian mobsters.
Yes, exactly. The guy from the DirecTV commercial.
That's right. There you go. I don't know. I think this is just really interesting because I think sensors are, and we've talked about this on the show. We've done whole episodes on it. Sensors are the future, and the more sensors, the better. You know, there are phones, obviously not the iPhone, but there are phones out today that'll do humidity and temperature, and you know, the more sensors we can pack in, track, record, the better off it's going to be. And this leads extremely well into a potential Apple wearable device at some point in the future, being able to take and share this device with this device using a separate chip opens up a lot of possibilities. But it's really going to come down to how developers use it.
Yeah, which is great. Unlike another piece of Apple hardware that was announced today.
And we will get to that in a minute. But before we do, we have to talk about one of the biggest features, I think, when people look at when buying a phone, which is battery life. And it's pretty much your standard 10 browsing, 10 talk time, you know, pretty average. They say it's better than the iPhone 5, but I can't imagine by much.
I think it's 2 hours in one of those. There's like 2 extra hours of talk or something. I'm not sure.
Yeah, so pretty comparable. There's still a lot to get through. We'll get through it quickly because I don't want to put anyone to sleep here. Cameras. We have an updated camera. It's a 5-element lens with a 15% larger active area on the sensor.
This is also pretty cool.
Bigger pixels, 1.5 microns. And, of course, all new software that does all kinds of shiny, fancy things, including where they take a series of pictures quickly and take the best parts from each photo and compiles one photo. Kind of like HDR on steroids. There's also the 2 LED flash, a cool one and a white, cool and white one, where the other is warm and amber. And what it does is it can adjust itself and get a better look on skin tones, and it's just a more accurate flash. Burst mode, 10 frames a second. Slow-mo, 120 frames a second. And they show the shiny, fancy display photos that look stupid good.
Yeah.
They did not mention anything about...
I think those look just as stupid good if you remember the Nexus announcement.
Oh, all the companies do it. I in no way am blaming Apple for this one. I just think it's funny when any of them do it. Because they're clearly ridiculous, but meh, I'll let it slide. The one thing that was interesting to note, they did not actually mention any megapixel number for the camera. So we do not know if this is the same, more or less, than the old one.
Doesn't matter.
Well, and that's true, and that's something we can talk about briefly, is that people make a lot of big deal about the 41-megapixel Nokia Lumia 1020, but it's really important to remember that megapixel is only a very small part of taking a great photo, especially on a device like a phone. Nokia has a lot of software that goes with that camera that makes it work so well. Mm-hmm. And Apple is the same way. They do special processing, and it's all about the software, using this... they call it the dynamic local tone map that goes into the autofocus matrix metering.
Okay.
Which I don't think is a real thing, but and the software with the LEDs. It's just really incredible what you can do with software and with processing power versus, megapixels. And Apple does that better than any other company. Yeah. Period. That's just a fact.
The photos are great.
So there's the camera, and then the third feature, security. And now we come to Touch ID. The rumor we talked about several times. We said, I guess it's true, maybe it's not true. Will it really be true? And what will it mean? Well, that is correct. There is now a fingerprint scanner located under the home button. It is a touch capacitive sensor with a 500 ppi resolution. And that will read 360, so you can have it in landscape or do your finger anyway. But essentially, it's a fingerprint reader. There is a laser-cut sapphire crystal cover to it, and you just put your finger on it, and it reads it. You can also use the fingerprint to authenticate iTunes when it comes to buying apps, music, and other iTunes products. It handles up to five fingerprints per account. I'm trying to think of what else is on here. They claim, and I know you'll have something to say about this, that it's never available to other software, it's not uploaded to Apple servers or backed up to iCloud, it is only on your personal device. And only the iOS 7 and the iPhone 5S support Touch ID. Dan, did this live up to the hype?
Yeah, mostly 80%. I was pretty, I don't know, I was confident this was going to happen. I was hoping that it would do more than unlock the phone, which it does. As far as I can tell, whenever you put in your Apple ID, you can instead put your thumb or whichever finger you've decided to use down, which is awesome. I wish it was integrated with like the whole OS X keychain thing that's happening in Mavericks, and that they announced that your iOS can be a two-factor auth for your entire keychain. So whenever you'd hit something that would be stored in your keychain on OS X, you could just put your thumb on your phone and it would do it, which would be super awesome. And then also having third-party APIs, apps that could use it would be pretty great. But not ruling it out. When it comes to the thing that you said about not uploading it to their servers, I believe them. Maybe they're uploading to the NSA servers, though. No, I'm just kidding.
Oh my god!
I think if the NSA doesn't need our thumbprints, they've got them anyways. You know, birth certificates, medical records.
Yeah, why did they already have all that stuff?
Shit's, you know, long gone.
They don't need Apple for that.
20 years ago.
I'm trying desperately to put up on the other monitor here I thought was really interesting the demo video for Touch ID. But of course, just as I try to do that, my mouse dies, the computer stops working. Bad things generally happen.
Yeah. There we go. Got a nice rotating champagne gold.
I can hear Johnny Ive in my ear.
Oh. Yes,
he's talking with his accent.
It's remarkable.
So Johnny Ive. You can see the metal ring around the home button. It's got no little square on it like it used to have.
Carved out of an asteroid. Harvest from Antarctica.
Alright, I'm gonna him in his creepy white room. So here's someone. They just put your finger on it and it just unlocks it. Alright, Dan.
Hi,
Dan. Not you, Dan.
Looks a little like Bill Nye the Science Guy.
So here you go. You're in the store. You push that. It asks you to scan your fingerprint. You just tap it. There you go. And this is how you add it.
Oh.
You just check it through a couple times, and it gets it. Now they're saying you should be able to.
Now does that actually reflect your fingerprint on the screen?
No.
Ah, come on.
But they say, and here you can see the breakdown. Your sapphire crystal.
Oh yeah.
I have to stop this video from playing because I can't hear both you and that in my ear. But they're saying that you should be able to touch it, you know, obviously in any 360, but also more even on sort of the tip of your finger or the side of your finger, I guess. At least the people who were in the demo room after the event who tried it said it was pretty good and pretty quick. You know, I certainly think it says a lot that Apple's willing to trust payments to it. You know, you have to remember when you're using it in iTunes or the App Store, I mean, that's charging your credit card. They're really trusting your credit card information to it.
Yeah.
You know, you can only, I don't know what the most expensive app is, but, you know, nonetheless, it certainly is interesting. As for right now, this wasn't 100% clear, but they seem to indicate that it would only be available to unlock your phone and to make iTunes purchases. There's no API. There's no availability for other apps to use it yet. So
maybe someday.
Maybe someday. And, hey, it is a version 1.0. And, we talked about this when we were sort of predicting, but the question for us was, is it going to be a useful tool or something fancy, shiny they can show in a nice Johnny Ive video? And I think it kind of falls in the middle. I feel like, yes, there are some cool things, and it's going to save me, a cumulative 20 seconds of my day having to type in my passcode. But at the same time, that's really all it can do.
No, it can also get around the my kid figured out what my password is and then bought $500 worth of things off of.
That's true.
Apple Store.
That's true. I was gonna say, but what if your kid murdered you and cut your finger off? Didn't think of that, Dan. Didn't think of that.
Yeah, there's a lot of nerding out in the group I was in today about how unique fingerprints are and but I think it's a pretty good proxy. Turns out there's actually this other technology that reads the veins in your finger, which is an even better security mechanism, but probably that technology doesn't fit into a phone yet.
No,
I'm excited.
I read the other day that there are some universities developing a car that can read your brainwaves and they know it's you based off of your brain pattern. I said I want that in my iPhone. When can it read my mind?
When can the NSA tap into my emotions?
When you're driving in the Google self-driving car, Dan.
Oh man, the future.
It's gonna be awesome. So those are the big features: camera, security, and processor. Not necessarily in that order. It is same price as the old phone, 16 gigabytes for $199, and add an extra 100 for each time you double that storage on a 2-year contract. There are also leather cases, too, that are kind of very similar. If you know the smart covers for iPads, the leather ones, it's sort of that same concept, $39 a piece as well. You can see Apple is really starting to get into the accessories market. They realize they're leaving a lot of money on the table there.
Yeah.
And another interesting thing, the idea was that the 5C would get rid of the 4S and the 4 as the cheaper phones, but they're actually keeping the 4S around. It will be free on contract. The 8 GB 4S model running iOS 7 will be free on contract. You'll have the 5C starting at $99 and the 5S starting at $199. Now, when can you get it? Friday, September 13th is the pre-order. You can only pre-order the 5C. There is no pre-order for the 5S. Go figure. Both phones will be available for purchase in-store and online on September 20th in the U.S., Australia, Canada, China, and all the usual suspect countries. They're saying over 100 countries by the end of the year.
Cool. Maybe they anticipate that the 5C will be more sought after than the 5S.
That could be it. My reverse thinking to that would be the last couple announcements they've made. They haven't had the lines outside the stores like they used to get, and if you can't pre-order, how are you going to get it right away? So it could be a way of generating people to get in the door.
Very cynical.
That's my marketing mind working.
Well, there were already people lining up yesterday in New York City, so.
And I'm not surprised in the least. They're going to sit there for a week, 2 weeks. A little over a week and a half. So, I don't know. And that pretty much runs through the entirety of today's Apple announcement. Wow. It ran fast. It took about an hour. Once Elvis Costello performed, it took about an hour and a half. And between iOS 7, the 5S, and the 5C, we didn't see iPods, we didn't see iPads, we didn't see Macs, Macs Pros, we didn't see TV, we didn't see watches. It was just phones this time, but the rumor is that there'll be another event in October to launch Mavericks, the new Mac Pro, and revised Macs with Haswell processors.
Yay.
And maybe iPods. Oh, I'm sorry, and new iPads as well. Retina Mini, all running iOS 7.
Think they're going to do all that?
Well, they did it all last year, if you remember. And last fall they had 2 events, and they pretty much, by the end of it, revamped everything. So
I guess I don't remember.
yeah, because they did 2. They did an iPhone and iPod announcement, and then they did a Mac and iPad announcement. When they all, cool. And that was when they launched Lightning across all the iOS devices.
Right. Okay, yeah.
So, Dan, what are your, I was going to say, can you sum it up in 1 or 2 sentences, but I don't know if that's even possible to do.
Terrifying white dungeon.
Yes, Johnny Ive, in his evil white lair. I really like to think his office at Apple really does look like that. He just has a backlit, really white wall behind him. No desk, he just sits in a chair.
Yeah, hunched over. His posture, his back must kill him. Oh, he's always so into it. He's down in there.
He's like the nicest evil villain I've ever heard of. Like he seems really evil, but he also seems really nice.
Yeah, it's like one of those New Age Bond villains.
Exactly. I'm thinking the new 007. Mm-hmm. No, I mean, I guess if I had to sum up the event, everyone, when they talk about Apple, and we talked about this a little bit, innovation, right?
Mm-hmm.
A disruption, right? That's what everyone expects out of Apple. I love metaphors, so I'm going to create one here as to where I think Apple is today, okay?
Okay.
Follow me on this.
I'm ready.
Apple is like the television show NCIS. Okay? NCIS is the #1 rated scripted drama on television. More than Breaking Bad, more than The Walking Dead, more than Mad Men, more than all these shows, NCIS is #1. Okay? Why? Because it's an average, consistent product. People know the characters, they know what they're getting each week, it's good enough, and people tune in. It's something for the masses, okay?
Mm-hmm.
That is what Apple has become. They put out consistent products, they tweak it when necessary, but over time it just gets a little bit better, and a little bit better, and a little bit better, and despite the fact it's not the best, the most original, the most exciting, people love it anyway. And people will flock to it. So no matter what you say about Apple innovating or about Apple being a slow, boring company, you know what? There's nothing wrong with that. That is my thought. You can be successful and still put out a real. This is a great phone. I don't care what anyone says. It's a great phone.
Yeah.
I had someone today ask me, what did they? Oh, they said I have a Galaxy Nexus and I'm looking to get a new phone. Or no, my brother has a Galaxy Nexus and I kind of like it, but I don't know anything about technology. I said buy an iPhone. Mm-hmm. If you don't know a lot about technology, just buy an iPhone because it's just going to work.
Yeah.
I mean, I just think we have these ridiculous expectations that every year this company is supposed to blow the competition out of the water, and that's just not possible. I mean, I'm sorry. I want to see the smartwatch and the flying cars and all the crazy stuff, but it's about having realistic expectations, and love it or hate it or excitement or boring. Apple released a set of really good products today.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It's tough. I agree at a rational level, but at an emotional level, like the first iPhone, and then the 3GS was just so much faster, and the iPhone 4 with its redonkulous screen, like just when Android had caught up, just when it was almost as good as the iPhone was, it was like, oh, by the way, we're gonna quadruple the resolution on these screens. And now Android phones have just in a year ago maybe caught up to that. That took them 2-3 years. And it's like, when's that next thing they're gonna do that's just puts the pole so far out there? Something that only Apple can do. That's my question. I don't think we've seen the last of it. I hope not.
No, I think that's an extremely valid point, and Apple is in the lull of the sort of curve line that is how their products usually work. They had the iPod out for many years, got settled, got comfortable, and then introduced the iPhone. Had the iPhone out for a few years, got comfortable, got settled, came out with the iPad. So this is a company that has a history of doing this.
there's no good tablet other than the iPad. Like, there are some okay Android tablets. There are ones that are pretty good. You could just get an iPad.
Nexus 7 is a pretty compelling device.
That's true, but it's basically a different category.
How's that a different category? It's a tablet.
Because the iPad is a computer replacement.
But that's aside. I don't think you compare the iPad Mini.
No.
The regular, because you can't compare a 10 and 7-inch.
Yeah, no, the straight-up iPad, a full 10-inch tablet category. There's no reason not to get an iPad if you're going to spend $400.
And want a 10-inch tablet? Yes, you're absolutely correct. But that's why Google needs to release another Nexus 10-inch and make it awesome.
Which they haven't.
Right.
Which is interesting.
No, I agree. They're missing the opportunity. No, Apple can do it and they will do it, but I get frustrated when, minutes after the event's over, there's already headline, Apple announces new iPhones, complete disappointment. And it's like, that's so not the way to think about it. I mean, these are really good phones. I don't care what anyone says. Yeah. Like or hate Apple, they're good phones. They work really well. They have very compelling features. You know? And I don't know. I don't know. I'm a little fed up.
All right, well, you gotta shut this thing down before you get too cranky there.
Yes, and I'm getting there. Jennings. I'm getting there, Dan. But with that being said, we wrap up our coverage of the big Apple announcement. As I said when we started, these are snap judgments, and I've been known to love something on the day they announce it and hate it 2 months later, or vice versa. So we'll have to wait and see. I think I'm going to grow to like the colors more than I do now. And iOS 7 as well. I think once I start to use it, I'm going to like it more than I think I like it now. I'm hoping. But we'll see. You'll have to stay tuned to Don't Panic to hear me admit my failures and having bad opinions. So we are going to move on to our picks this week, and we only have 2 picks because we only have 2 people, but there's nothing wrong with that. Dan,
yes,
you have a pick this week. What is it?
I picked TrueCrypt, which is a program that cross-platform that allows you to create encrypted files that look like just plain old files, or you can make them look like whatever you want. But when you open them up through this program, they turn into like mounted disk drives, which is pretty cool. But the real reason I picked this is because it doesn't matter how well encrypted it is, because it turns out that the NSA brilliantly, rather than just relying on people not encrypting their things at the backbone of the internet or any of that stuff, personally and subversively influence the standards bodies that comes up with encryption techniques that are used by the government and industry to include erroneous mathematical cryptographic things. In at least one case that happened, but it was since fixed. But also, they have potentially they have the ability, supposedly, to... So you go to a website and you download a program. Most everyone takes it on faith that that program is what it is, and that what you downloaded is what you thought you were downloading. There's no reason that has to be true, though, and there's plenty of like malware sites that do this. It's like, oh, you're downloading Skype. Well, here's Skype, and then you install it, and it crashes all the time, but you actually just got malware. Man, this is a long explanation. But basically, there's open source software that's compiled every time. So you can see the source code, and this has long been a reason why it's better to run open source software, because you can inspect the source code and make sure that there are no NSA backdoors. But what if you inspected the source code, but then when you actually downloaded the compiled version to install it, that someone had inserted a backdoor in there that isn't in the open source version, or potentially that the NSA has backdoored the compilers to insert backdoors into certain packages like SSL and things like that, so that it transparently becomes vulnerable when you compile it. Just saying.
So if I've got this correct, your pick this week is an encryption software that
is useless against the NSA, potentially. We have no reason to believe that it is not backdoored.
That's a great pick, Dan.
Thank you.
No, I have to say, A, I do actually kind of find this interesting, but also B, America's spies deserve some kind of bonus because they do spying apparently much better than I thought they did. Like, that's actually really good. Like, they're doing their job
really well.
If
they have backdoored the compilers to insert backdoors into open source software as people compile it, that's amazing.
That's great. You know, I have to say,
a revolution in code analysis.
If I were a programmer, I'd consider working for the government because they're doing a lot of crazy stuff. So
I never would have thought so, but yeah, their crazy stuff is what they're doing.
That is very true. Well, that is TrueCrypt. It mostly works.
Maybe.
Very good. All right, good pick. I'm going to go in a completely different direction. I'm going to just say screw it. We're going
Paint a picture for us. What's the problem we're solving this week?
Well, you know, I realized I actually have two types of picks I do. And the reason is that there's I'm going to try to multitask here and look at the monitor while I'm talking. I like to solve problems, but I also like to do what I call best of breed, right? I did this when I picked my to-do list app, Wunderlist. That's my personal favorite. I think it's the best. I did that with a weather app. I picked Dark Sky a couple weeks ago. Okay.
Yeah.
This week, Dan, I don't know if you're a fan of the sports ball.
I've never heard of the sports ball.
The sports ball, those young men and women playing the sports ball, this week kicked off the National Football League. That's right, it was week 1, dozens of games, lots of exciting sports actions, and you may be wondering, I have a busy, on-the-go lifestyle, and I cannot sit on my couch all weekend just watching football, which is sad because you should do that. But if you can't, we have these fantastic devices in our pockets. And so you want to use them to keep up with your sports. Well, there are 100 apps that promise to keep you informed on all your sports team's actions. Well, I am here to tell you the one I found to be the best. My criteria for picking the best were two things: alerts and scores, okay? I did not judge this on news. There are better news apps, so if you just want general news, that's not it. Or very specific player-type fantasy stats as well. This is not a good app for that. But for me, I want to check my team and the league scores, especially for football where they all kind of play on the same day. And I want alerts. I want to know when they score. I want to know the end of the quarter. I want to know what the 2-minute warning. So the app I picked is The Score. This is the Google Play page. It is available for Android and iOS. And I'm going to open it up here and give you a little demo on the demo cam.
Whoa.
I had this sitting here the whole time. I haven't even used it once.
Jeez.
So this is the demo cam. So here are the NFL scores, for example. It's really straightforward. So there's two ways you can do it. There's My Score, which is a great way to specifically follow your teams. This does almost all the leagues you can see here. My teams I follow: the Bruins in hockey, the Patriots in football, the Celtics in basketball, as well as Marist College. Go Red Foxes. You can abstract teams. You can also track specific players. And on that day, for example, this is good towards the end of the football season when there's both hockey and football and college basketball. It actually alerts me. I never remember when Marist is playing, but I have this set up to let me know when they have ended a game, and it tells me the score. Cool. You can also look at full league information as well. So they have sports I've never, mixed martial arts. If you want to know about that, they have it. But specifically, I'll click football, and there you go. All on one screen are all the games, when they are, and what the scores are. I'll scroll back to last week. You can see they have all the scores, and they update as they go throughout. And then on each page, they have the matchups, the team, the scoring per quarter, the big scoring plays. You can also look at individual game stats for each team, and a play-by-play as well.
And what was this called?
This is The Score. THE score, the score. As well as league standings, which I use all the time because I never remember, as well as league leaders and things like passing, rushing, and of course it's different for each and every league.
Right.
The alerts, the other reason I really like it are the alerts. They have a really diverse system of alerts. I'll show you if I look at the Patriots here. So here are the list of all the alerts: game start, game end, every scoring play, red zone, close game, turnovers, breaking news. And of all the apps I've tested, I've done the ESPN, they have an app. CBS Sports has an app. Even the NFL's official app, I find this app gives me more detailed alerts and faster alerts. Because I've had like 3 or 4 of these, I kid you not, all running at the same time, and when there's a scoring play, my phone goes berserk. But I did that because I found that they gave the best and the fastest alerts. And that's pretty much what it does. Obviously, there are some news features as well. I would say it's not super what it's known for. But again, if you're looking for scores and alerts on leagues you really care about, hey, look at that. The United States is going to the World Cup without having to go to the playoffs. We made it. That was actually, I did watch a little bit of that. We won in 2-0 over Mexico. It was a good game.
Nice.
But yeah, it's the score. It's available. It's absolutely free on iOS, Android, and I wouldn't be surprised if they were on other platforms as well. Just a really good, really consistent app for sports fans. That's my personal pick. Again, your results may vary what you prefer, but that's the sports app. I've used it for a couple of years, and it makes following, especially sports like hockey and where they play a lot, baseball. It makes it really easy to follow. So the score.
Sweet.
All right, Dan, we survived. I don't think we need that Colby guy.
No, he's fired.
Dead weight. Let's cut him loose.
Yeah, cost too much.
No, of course, Colby will be back next week, as will the both of us. Doing a little bit of housekeeping here, I want to remind all of our listeners that we do this show live every Tuesday night at 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. That is 8 p.m. Pacific. At our website, don'tpanic.io, you can click Listen Live. And you can also watch all of our episodes after the fact. We have a 2 to 3 day turnaround on those in both audio and video. Don'tpanic.io. If you want all the latest updates, not just when episodes are posted and not just when we're live, but also like today when there's a big event going on. Dan and I were in the chat room. You can join us, chat along, get our feedback on what's going on. There was actually I think we had a lot of really good stuff. So I hope we can do this more for things like this.
Yeah.
All of that. You got to follow us on Facebook, facebook.com/don'tpanic show. All right, Dan.
All right, Shaun.
That's it. We are out. Thank you to everyone for watching and listening and being a part of our big Apple roundup next week. I promise we're going to try to avoid Apple as much as possible, but you know they're pervasive. They'll sneak right in.
They do.
And with that, I'll end the show as we do every week by reminding our listeners, don't panic. We'll see you again next Tuesday. Until then, good night.